Okay, review time, something a little bit different. This is the 1/48 scale Trumperter Westland Whirlwind, which Westlands are not very far from here, about an hour from here. And also the markings is very local aircraft to us as well, because the actual marking to this at HE was through, was it 623 Squadron, which was actually based at Exeter as well. And Exeter is 5 minutes from here, so you know, local bird all the way around, so quite a lot of interest for me in this particular kit. So what have we got? It's quite a small box. The kit price, you can see here, is £30. To be honest, this is Adam Raw's kit, who sent it to me to review. Thank you, Adam, for this one. So if it's a terrible kit, don't blame me. Okay, so what do we got? Okay, as I said, it's 1/48 scale, it's Trumperter, it's in a nice box. We've got the little thing about the Western Whirlwind, about the aircraft and everything else. It's one of those weirdo aircraft. When you look at it, you can see other things. So obviously it looks a little bit like a mini Mosquito, but also when you look at the tail, you can see the meteor in the tail and the way the development was going to try and get things very aerodynamic, as you can see, and things through this. As I say, I'm not brilliant on this particular aircraft because it wasn't actually in service that long. It got superseded by the Typhoon, I do believe, which basically, you know, was a better performer for the type of role that this was designed for. This was sort of a low altitude attack aircraft. Certainly the Typhoon, as we know, was supposed to be a fighter, and certainly didn't perform at high altitude, but what it did turn out to be was an amazing attack aircraft and low level fighter, and obviously superseded something like this very, very quickly. So, as I said, we've got a little bit on the box, the usual thing about it. We've got the kit number 02890 and a little bit on the back and everything else. And as I say, when you look at it, it's really, really weird because some of the things on it, they are, well, shall we say, a little bit funny ways of doing it. So, not many sprues in the box, so you don't get too much for your money. As always, we'll start with the actual bit. So we've got the usual thing from Trumperter of what's coming up soon, which I do like to look at because you can always tell what they're up to. And see, here's the one we've got, some armament down there. Okay, not anything particularly impressive. Colour call out. So we'll start off in the instructions. So if we just drop this top camera down just a little bit so you can see. As I said, there's not many sprues to this. Don't know why they've quite got all this riveting detail showing in here, but never mind. Right, usual thing, starting off with the cockpit. You obviously got your floor control grip, the seat, no real detail in any of that by the looks of it from here. It's a decal for the instrument panel. Okay, sometimes you can get away with it, other times you can't. I think these type of aircraft are quite confined. It's not like an F-16 where everything's, you know, you can look into it, so you can get away with this one. We've got the system of putting in a cockpit tub, so we've got side walls going in, which tends to give you a little bit more detail. The actual engine areas, those nacelles on there, the gear going in. I'm just looking at it. Looks like you're going to have to put the undercarriage gear in now. You can't put it in later, which is a bit of a pain because if you want to paint it as a separate, if it's separate colour, you're going to have to mask up. The only thing you might be able to do is not put in the rear part here. Okay, so don't put this in. I'm thinking you put that in, fold it back, paint it all up, fold it up, mask it over, job done. And then once it's finished, you can then pull this up. This one with the undercarriage on it, bend it up. Okay, you can put the wheel and everything in afterwards, and then you can just put this bracing thing back in the back there. I don't think that would be a problem doing it that way, and it'll save a lot of messing around. As I said, a few little details going in there. You've got the exhausts, have got covers on them, as you can imagine, so pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to this, as you can tell. We're scooting through it rather rapidly. So cockpit tub goes in, and then being a tail wheel, you don't have to worry about obviously being a tail sitter, because it is anyway, so you don't need any nose weight. You've got the medium grey green going in there. It's pretty straightforward. The guns going in. This front windscreen, which looks like it's off of something like a Hurricane, everything's very aerodynamic apart from the windscreen. But then so is the early Meteors as well. So that's going in. Tailplane's going in at the top there. These big, long, old gangly wings that they have going in. Radiators or cooling ducts going in at the front, and then it just clips in the bottom. If it was all so simple, we'd be okay. Okay. Those engine and gear compartments going in, pretty straightforward. Might need a little bit of filler to go down there. It'd be interesting to see how good that fit is. quite a weirdo way of the bracing for the sway braces, clipped to a unit which then clips on. Gear doors going on, as you'd imagine, and then that's it, I should think, isn't it? So yeah, spinners going on, props on, everything else. Talk about a quick build. It'd be one of those nice weekend builds. If you want to do an aircraft and just get it done, built, painted in a weekend, this is probably the one for you. Okay, colour call out. So we've got the usual thing. It's got the Hobby Boss colours all the way through. A couple of gaps for Vallejo, a couple of gaps for Model Master, a couple of gaps in Tamiya, as we know, and Humble. So it's amazing how the the gun stuff always is in. Okay, but there we go. As you can see, it has got very, very funny windscreen. It's so, everything else is so sleek on this, apart from the windscreen. It's might as well be a bus. But as I said, it's a local bird to me because HE is in fact 623 Squadron, which is just up the road from me. So it's a real local bird before they moved on. Okay, so you've got it in the early colours, obviously the brown over green, and then coming into the later one where it's the grey over green with the underside as well. So nice little couple of colours down there. It'd be interesting if I can find out a little bit more about the actual squadron, the aircraft in particular, from my local guys around here who know quite a bit about Exeter Airport. Exeter Airport, getting totally off track, but it won't take long to review this. My local one, as I said, we don't have many airfields that are still going down here. There's loads of them around. This place is completely dotted with them that have all got farms on them now and everything else. But it was very famous because a lot of the D-Day paratroopers took off from this area. Not to mention all the ships and everything else go around with it. So let's start off with the cockpit. So my knife, where is my knife? Knife is stuck in a block. Okay, so let's have a look to see what we've got in here. I'm sure Adam won't mind us having a good old nosy. Okay, looking at the parts, first thing it grabs you is you've got very nice recessed panel lining, lots of riveting as we'd imagine in this day and age, and everything else that goes through with this. We just drop in some of these cameras in a little bit closer because, as I said, these screws aren't the biggest on the planet. Okay, but as you can see, or I hope you can see, very nice tooling on this, no sign of flash. We've got no ejector pin marks anywhere that's a massive problem. So what we've got in here, we've got the inside detail, as we were talking about for the cockpits. I'm not sure what it's all supposed to be, but I'm sure people in the know would be. Some nice detail up here on the roof area and everything else going in. As I said, a little bit of flash just there, which is unusual, but very easily get rid of with your nail normally. There we go. So anyway, as you can see on the top, we've got it's a recessed instrument panel, but you know, it's one of those things. It's going to have a decal over it, plenty of softener, melt that git in there, and then you can come along with something like my favourite, which is crystal clear, but a couple of drops of clear gloss in there just to give you the gloss effect, and it gives you everything you need. Nice detail on the floor, as you can see as well on that one, but hopefully you can pick up some of this riveting detail. Hopefully one of the cameras will get it. It's not too bad at all, actually. Quite impressed with that. That's very nice. As I said, it's a small aircraft, but small and beautifully formed, I think they would call it. So anyway, here we go in with the rest of it. So we've got the wheels, so they're rounded wheels, as in no weight on wheels, as you can see down the bottom here. This is the inside of the actual gear, the top of the gear if you like, so we've got one each side because it's like a mirror over here. Usual thing, we've got nice touch, you've got different size holes, so you're not going to get the one around the wrong way because there's probably slight differences in the exhausts coming out as they go in. These are these sections going in, so I'm wondering, see look, there's only a little tiny tab down there, you can poke them in afterwards. So there you go, get the gear, put it in, fold it back in there, mask it up, job done. There's red on this, there's actually red something on there. I'm hoping it's release agent, not dry blood. Okay. Inside of the doors, very nice touch because we've got no sign of an ejector pin mark in any of those at all. In fact, you've got no ejector pin marks inside these either where it's going to matter. Okay, we've got these sway braces. All right, a little bit clunky. Photo etch would be nice on something else like that, but I'm sure the aftermarket boys will be along in their time to do this. And as I said, you've even got a little bit of riveting detail up here on the bulkheads and on the rear plates as well as you go through. So all in all, very nice, very nicely detailed. Now, one of the things that the Whirlwind, you know when you've seen one, is its wingspan, because as you can see, I have to move the camera out again now, it's quite a big wingspan. As you can see, it's a lot longer than the fuselage. So there's your fuselage, there's your wingspan. So it's almost like a glider, this thing. Okay, so looking down on it, what have you got? Again, very nice recessed panel lining. It's got a little bit of texture to this. Obviously, you're going to be doing it in combat, but if you're doing glosses and stuff like that, it's a bit of a pain when it's like this. The riveting all seems to be very, very crisp. All the panel lining goes the entire distance. No problem with that at all. Obviously, no separate control surfaces on this, so you've got no sort of ailerons and flaps and that which you can deploy, which would have been nice of something of this scale. And then we've got here, now I don't know, not knowing this aircraft, as I said, it's very hard to say about it, but certainly what we've got down here is raised areas which I tend to think probably blend into the wing. It's just why there's no panel line that sort of carries them round or anything else like that, and I can't tell if that's a sink mark at the front. I don't know which camera might be better with these, but you see these guys here, these little plates here, obviously raised at the riff, flush at the front. I'm sure they're supposed to be like that. It's just that I would have thought you would have had something running around on the metal join of some reason for that. But generally, as I said, you don't have to worry about anything on the inside. Very nice and pushed in ejector pin marks everywhere, so you're not going to have any problems with fit. Some nice locating tabs as well to make sure everything goes. And also, it's quite a nice touch, you've actually got blocks for where these go in, because they're square. Instead of just being a couple of holes for it to just push into, they're actually blocks, so you can't push in too far. So, nice little touch. Okay, props and spinners. Okay, no sign of flash on the props whatsoever. Okay, very nicely done. Usual thing, a couple of swipes with the sanding stick will take care of those, but they are very thin on the end, so just be careful how you do that, because you don't want to actually take a couple of scale inches off the end. Unfortunately, the guns are a bit pants for something that's on here. In fact, should it actually be like that? It's a tiny one. So obviously that's a little something else, but the guns we've got down here and here, as I said, some nice aftermarket ones. I'm sure somebody must do something that fits in there. We've got these exhausts we were talking about with, see the actual locating pins, very small on these, very big on these. They're different ones, so you can't get them around the wrong way. And then usually the nose is a little bit boring for the guns to go in. I thought maybe some riveting around that, something else. But as I said, little details you can add yourself, which would be a nice touch. And these little lumps and bumps down the bottom. Again, no sign of flash anywhere whatsoever. It's quite a nice touch on any of the parts. Okay, into the get into these clear parts. This is where I need a new cutting mat. I need a reviewing cutting mat instead of using this one because it's a little bit horrible. So we've got some very nice raised detail for the panels running on this. The great thing about when they're raised is obviously you can easily mask up, because either you can follow them or you can just blanket the entire thing and cut it and your job done. So it's, you know, it just makes it easier for masking. This is that front windscreen we were talking about, which is like a bus front. Okay, so certainly seems to be good. We've got very good clarity head on. Pretty good, you can see it through here, no problem with that at all. But I must admit, I haven't had any problem with Trumperter clear parts for a while now. You don't get any of the webbing effect or anything else we've spoken about in the past with said other manufacturers who tend to, let's just say, do it the cheaper way to manufacturing clear parts. So at least Trumperter spend a little bit of money there to put them right. So we have down here the decals. Just have a look in these. Again, little lovely touch. Some people put a staple through them, which bugs the arse off me completely. This is what I was talking about. It's nice because it stops it moving around and it's doing its job of actually protecting the decal and stopping anything scratching them, sticking to them or anything else. So it's a nice little touch having those on there. Unfortunately, the quality of the decals does tend to let these things down. So the usual thing, as you can probably see, they are very, very thick. They're like sellotape thickness. So you know, you're going to need your softeners and your various things to get these down. They are extremely glossy as well, so you're going to need to mat these down. A couple little techniques we've spoken about before. We're going to show you a lot of these techniques in the next couple of months here on Flory Models about weathering down techniques. So overcoating techniques, rubbing down techniques like we did on the Intruder. Take a sanding sponge to them and sand them flat and then overcoat them, and washes and so forth and so on. So there's lots of things there, but they all seem to be all nicely in register. They're just a little bit thick and I'm not too sure about the red either, but there you go, seems very nice. no complaints at all. So there we go. What can you say? Okay, a bit expensive. Don't get a lot of plastic in here for your money. But that said, you know, it's something a little bit different. None of the other manufacturers, as I know, does a 148 Westland Whirlwind. So if you want to do one, probably your only option in this scale. Does seem to be very nicely done. Lots of riveting detail, so it'll take washes. And obviously, being your sort of standard late war camos, you can do lots of things with them. Obviously, fading that down, weathering it, and little chipping effects and things like that. So there we go, the Trumperter 148 Westland Whirlwind.